Hi, this is Don Clark with FileMakerProGurus.com and FM Database Consulting. I'm here with Susan Fennema. Susan, how are you today?
Hey, Don. Good to talk to you again.
Susan's with Beyond the Chaos. She's the chief, no, I always get
It's the
chaos eradicating officer. There we go.
Right. Chaos eradicating officer, CEO.
I always go to chief executive officer for some reason. At any rate, this is our second session in the project management series for the new year here. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And with this time, we're looking at what are the developers' expectations or responsibilities. What is the project manager? What should you as a project manager expect from your developer? And what should you as a developer know that you're responsible for? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan because she's the project manager expert.
Thanks, Don. So one of the things that we want to talk about is all those tools you're asked to use. Right. So where you track your time, is it in FileMaker? Is it in Harvest? Is it in any of those others? Where are you asked to track the project itself? Is it Basecamp? Is it Teamwork? There's tons of options, and you might have to use different ones for each client.
Yeah, there's Slack, there's Trello, there's, I don't know.
Yeah. There are a lot, and different clients will use different things. One of the things that is important, though, is to use that tool to communicate yourself. Right. And one of the things I suggest to many developers is to put the projects that you're working on, the tools you're working on, as home pages on your browser. So when you log in every morning, up pops, your 4 different clients' projects right in front of your face.
Okay.
Gives you a place to know what is coming up and to know what the tasks are. Almost all of these have me or what's on my plate type pages.
Right. Exactly.
I would use those.
Project launching pad or something like that.
Right. And so checking off or assigning the tasks to the right person when they're finished is an important thing to make sure your project manager knows it's no longer in your court. Right. I'm asking the client to review it or it's totally finished.
Right. Exactly.
The other is,
yeah.
The other is making sure that you are posting time to the correct job and the correct task.
To the right program.
Right. With notes of what you did. Yeah. It's not just, I worked on this today. It's, I actually edited this script, or I worked on this task number from Zendesk, whatever it is that you're referencing.
That's a really good point because I'll write down that I rewrote a particular script. And, and call the new subscript, and I'll put them by, I use numbers. I'm surprised there's other people out there, I guess, with better memories than me. They can remember a phrase, that this is supposed to do such and such and such and such with that. And then me, I just put a 4-digit code on the front of it. And I can always remember a 4-digit code and I can find that really fast and filter for it. But I seem to be in a minority of all the developers out there. But that's the whole good point you're making is back to the subject at hand. You have to write down what you did, enough information that me as a project manager or as another developer could go into there and look at what you did.
And there are some tools. There is a drop-in if you're using Harvest with your clients. There's actually a drop-in that works with Chrome and Safari that if you're in Basecamp or you're in Zendesk or you're in Teamwork, you can click on the little timer and it will open Harvest for you. It will note that task name and now it's there. So use your tools to help you too. You're not out on your own.
Yeah. A lot of people use FileMaker, developers have a FileMaker management, project management tool of some kind they've developed or they're using.
And that's fine too. I'll tell you, I know this is probably horrible to say, but I recommend to most FileMaker developers to steer clear of trying to invent your own thing in-house, unless it's a product you're selling.
Right.
You're just going to end up developing it in your spare time, and it's like the cobbler's never having his shoes, right? It's never going to be as high quality. Now, if you have one, there's nothing wrong with using it, but that's just my 2 cents. Don't wait on it.
Different video because a lot of times, that's the reason I have trouble with Basecamp or I have trouble with Slack or with Trello. There are some things it does wonderfully, and there's other things it doesn't even do well at all, in my opinion.
That's true.
One of these things, and if it's one of those areas that falls in the thing that I feel is necessary to have, then I'm not going to use it.
Well, and now you have FileMaker APIs, so you can link into all these things too if you want to pull it together. So there are some really cool things to do, but that's
a lot of great stuff out there. Yeah.
That's off the track of our conversation.
Yes, it is.
It's a fun one though. Part of the other role of the developer is making sure that when it is time for the client to get billed from the contractor, that those notes are easy to pull from whatever tool they're using.
Exactly.
And send.
Put that in the bill.
Right.
Details. Yeah.
So making sure that you have communicated also in a way that the client will understand, not just the contractor. And, to that end, be careful what you type in there. Had to do this because the client's horrible. What if that got by somebody, right? Be careful. And the other is also, as you're looking at your project management tools, when you have that list of what is in my court today, are those things truly in your court? That's something that you should be saying, oh, wait, no. Why is this still assigned to me? Project manager, that should be with the client. Can you please make sure that they fix it or look at it or get my answer?
In your court at this point, yeah.
Right. And so if it's assigned to you, the project manager believes you're working on it. So that's a good thing to keep in mind as well.
Yeah. Well, there's some other issues that come up that developers should be aware of.
Right. One is, what if you've promised a certain amount of time to a specific contractor that you're working for? Say, oh yeah, no problem. I can give you 15 hours a week.
Right. Every week.
Right. Every week. That's 3 hours a day. Is that blocked on your calendar? That is a really good way for a developer to find a subcontracting developer to guarantee that they're giving the amount of time they say, as well as to not overpromise.
Right.
If you've promised 5 people 20 hours a week, where are your 100 hours coming from?
Sleep's overrated.
Right. And as a project manager, if you tell me you're giving me 20 hours a week, I am building the schedule based on that. So I'm telling the client, okay, well, 20 hours, it's a 60-hour project. I'll say 3 weeks, and then I'm always padding it, Okay, so 5 weeks, but if you're only working on it 3 hours a week, now the whole thing's blown. Yeah. So making sure that you're giving what you promise is important. And if you're stretched and you're in demand, raise your rates, subcontractors. That means
I told that to people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I followed that advice myself too. So
it means you're in demand, and it means you're worth it. So work less and get paid more. I think that's what all of us want, right?
Yeah, not work at all and you'd be paid a lot more. It would be perfect, but
it would be great.
Recurring income, passive recurring income. That's the secret to life, I guess. Those are the guys like, Bill Gates, that doesn't have to work at all. So.
That's true.
Not all him. At any rate, there's more things too, though, that I think they should be responsible for. When they're having problems or when they see something's not right, what do you recommend?
Right. One thing that comes up might be a completely unrealistic deadline.
Okay.
Right. A project manager or a salesperson, somebody might have promised something to the client that, especially once you dig into the technology, you're like, that is not happening ever. That is important to make sure that the project manager knows early and upfront, not late, and to change the expectation with the client. Hey, that might affect the budget as well.
Setting expectations early and often.
So important. And the other is then working with the project manager to figure out, hey, can part of this maybe be delivered by the deadline?
Okay.
And if so, can we work with the client to find out what is there a piece of it they need by that date?
Okay.
That communication, man, I think that's been the theme overall, hasn't it, Don?
Pretty much that's what it comes down to, but knowing what and when you have to communicate is a big part of that.
Right.
Like you said, avoidance and assumptions,
They're very dangerous.
Yeah.
And if you can clearly communicate and give consequences, it's really important. I think my catchphrase is always clear, concise communication with consequences to the client. It's a lot of C's.
That's always a good thing.
But those consequences are important without making the client feel threatened or wrong. But, hey, we can do all this by Friday, but in order to make that happen, we need this from you by Tuesday at 3:00.
Well, thanks. If you do that, if you follow the rules, if you keep the communication lines open, your life as a developer is going to be a whole lot easier, and your project manager is going to be smiling a lot more too. So,
that's absolutely true.
I think that pretty much covers what we had for this portion of it. We got one more video left in this series, and that one's going to be on helping the developer, or a developer if you're listening and watching, to how you can better track doing what you're doing and do your job more effectively.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to do next week. We'll be back then. So we hope to see you then. Until then, I'm Don Clark with FileMakerProGurus.com and FM Database Consulting, and Susan.
Yeah, and I'm Susan Fennema, the Chaos Eradicating Officer for Beyond the Chaos. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.